So what you're hearing now is actually a little, excuse me, it's a little bit different than what I had before. I've changed a little bit of shit. That's why I started streaming, is because I was working on it and I realized that I might as well show you guys. I've changed my mastering chain quite a bit. See right here, I've got Fruity Parametric EQ at the top of the mastering chain, the beginning of the mastering chain. I'm not doing anything to actually equalize. Just right down here in the bottom right, you have a volume knob or a gain knob. And I'm using that to turn the entire mix down. So then I have virtual headroom to work with. And then my multiband compressor is mastering and boosting at 6.3 decibels, 6 decibels. And I'm boosting here the gain knob on my high end just a little bit to give it kind of that crispy crunch. And then here's my master EQ, which is actually just a low pass filter and a high pass filter, effectively. And finally, I'm using a limiter. You'll notice that I no longer have to keep my knee at 100%, and the gain is now much, much higher than it was before. We're at 22.2 decibels of gain on the limiter, so obviously I created a large gap when I turned it down with this plug-in right here. Before I did anything like that, I don't have a subwoofer, and so I assume that my tracks, generally speaking, have too much bass. If the mix is giving me problems, I assume it's the bass that's the problem. So what I did was I turned off my multiband compressor and I turned off my limiter, and I just listened to it really quiet, like this. And I watched, right here, I watched all of my levels to make sure that none of them were really peaking way higher than any other instrument. And then I could, after turning it down this much, I could hear that everything sounds pretty balanced now, but I could hear that the bass was too loud. The kick drum and the bass instrument were too loud. So I turned them both down. Here's my kick. I turned it all the way down, and I turned my bass all the way down. And now, listen to it this way. No kick, no bass. So fast forward a little bit. See, that's another bass that you hear, but it's not the main bass. It's actually quiet. Okay, so with my kick drum and my bass instrument missing, let's turn the limiter on and just see how far we can boost it. See how far we can boost it without any distortion. Now there's no distortion there, but I've actually turned it up to the point where you'll see it's triggering. You see how the meter is moving a lot. I don't know. What that tells me is when I bring my bass back in, it's going to be getting stepped on by a lot of this shit going on in the high end that's so loud. But it sounded pretty good at 22.2. And then all I did was drag. I just listened to the mix. And now my kick and my bass are both representing the low-end frequencies quite nicely, but they're not overtaking the mix and they're not causing any problems with my limiter. So there you go. That's a quick little mastering lesson. I mean, I guess that's just what I did today because my mix down was bothering me. And the reason, if you want to know how I knew I needed to do that, I was looking up here in my top left at this. And the middle part of that was dipped down during the entire song, and the high end was also not hitting as high. Basically, the bass frequencies were clearly hitting at the top of the meter, and the mid-range and the highs were not. And that's... I don't have a subwoofer, so visually, that's how I knew my mix needed help. And that's how I solved the problem. So, I'm actually gonna restart the stream real quick. Actually, you know what? I'm not gonna restart it. I can just edit that since it was the first thing that I did. It'll be easy to make a highlight. But, yeah, a brief little impromptu mastering tutorial for you. Hopefully you learned a little something.